Welcome to the Delaware County Commissioners meeting called to order here on Monday, October 21st, 2019 at 9 a.m. Let's please stand for the pledge.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Mr. Craycraft, do roll call please.
Mr. King.
Here.
Mr. Henry.
Here.
Ms. Reagan.
Present.
Mr. Redd. Here.
And we want to remember the auditor's office in our thoughts. They've had 2 losses this past weekend with family members. Thank you. The table of business, I believe we're just going to leave that on since Mr. Brooks not here, and I don't think we've reached a decision, so that'll stay tabled. Approval of minutes, please.
So moved. Second.
Roll call, please.
Mr. Henry.
Yes.
Mr. King.
Yes.
Ms. Reagan.
Yes. Thank you. Now we have a presentation, Mr. Nate Jones, our veteran director.
Good morning, Commissioners. Nate Jones, Delaware County Veterans Affairs. Today I just want to present you a little bit of a video that we made from our Delaware County Stand Down and Resource Fair to kind of give everybody a sight of what we seen that day. And then also, I got a few other things I want to talk about after that, if you don't mind. So, Devin.
Stand Down this year, we're steadily improving. We're getting more organizations every year, more veterans every year that we are helping. We've included employers, which helps a lot. We're hoping that they get hired on and taken care of. In fact, this year we got 3 homeless vets off the street and into a place to live. State ROTC do a great job for us. They post the colors, they sing the anthem, they take care of the kitchen. Our Central High School ROTC takes care of helping all of the veterans through the line and anything else we need, to include other volunteers who help man the tables, to hand out donations that we get, boots, clothing, food, anything that we get is most appreciated. There's so many veterans that have sacrificed their lives to help our country, and we need to take care of them because they've gone through a lot of stuff for our country. And it's not right that they're out there on the streets because they don't have resources. And that's why we do what we do. That's the only reason for us veterans, and also other organizations who just want to help. And that's what this is all about, helping our brothers and sisters.
So that's just an insight as to what we've done this year with the stand down. I will tell you that it seems that every year the stand down continues to get better and better. And so I'm going to let Ralph and Kristy speak a little bit as they were our central committee, our chair this year. And there's good reason as to why that was. And when they get done, we have a few other things that we'd like to announce as well.
So we'd just like to, on behalf of the Delaware County Veterans Affairs Office, thank the county commissioners for the tremendous support that you give us to put on this event. This is a county-wide event, and we couldn't do it without your support. A lot of people come together. Actually, this is the largest veterans event ever held in Delaware County. Last year, it was the largest, and we surpass those numbers this year. So thank you. This is was the 12th annual Veterans Stand Down, and only the second stand down and resource fair since the Delaware County Veterans Affairs took this over 2 years ago. Couldn't do it without a lot of support from community or from established or businesses in the community. We had, and those are listed in our program, but I'd like to read them off for the record. Amazing Joe's, American Legions from Delville, Selma, and Yorktown, the Barking Cow, Dandy Concessions, Delaware County Commissioners, Free RSC Engineering, the Indiana Combat Veterans Motorcycle Association, Chapter 14-1, Midas of Muncie and Anderson, the Muncie Eagles Lodge, Paul Revere Chapter of the Daughters of the American Revolution, the Colonial Danes, Wolf Boom Radio, and Zaki Ali. And of course, the veterans or the volunteers were mentioned in the video. And I'd like to give a hand to one of our own, Devin, who has worked in the Delaware County Veterans Affairs Office as a work study. He graduated from Ball State and now is producing videos. If you need someone, you just saw his work. Devin, stand up. Devin Hamilton. What's the name of your business?
It's just me.
I think it's Iron Hand Productions or something. Yeah.
He's doing a lot of freelance work, so.
Yeah, so, and I'll turn it over to Kristy to give you some of the numbers from this year's event.
As the video said, we had quite a few organizations. When I did the final count, we had 80. We had 57 different community service organizations. That's anywhere from healthcare to records to housing. They're numerous, and they're all here in Delaware County. We had 15 employers, we had 8 education, and we had 8 volunteer organizations. We had 147 veterans that came through. That was just the regular veterans. That did not include our 16 volunteer veterans or the 30 veterans that we had from the 80 organizations. That was huge. We had our volunteer civilians. We had 53 of those. That's the Ball State ROTC, the Central ROTC, Ivy Tech, and others. It was pretty awesome to see everyone in there. The nice thing about that is that we still have room for more, and we'll go after those next year and fill up the entire building. We're excited for how it's already growing just in the last 2 years.
So the last thing that we would like to do is the person really that has taken this on and been the leader of this entire effort, and he takes no gratitude for himself, but I'm going to give it to him today. He's the leader that makes this happen, and that's Nate Jones. So thank you, Nate.
So with that today, I guess now we're going to get into some more of the heartfelt stuff that it's been hard for me to even talk about, to be honest with you. But I have a few gentlemen here today that Ralph and Kristy have been an inspiration to throughout the community. Ralph and Kristy have been working tirelessly their whole life to help either this country or this community. And I hate to even talk about it, but here soon, Ralph is going to be retiring as of December 18th and moving on to bigger and better things. And so I have a few guys that want to come up and say a few things about him. And then at the end, I'd like to say a few things as well, if you don't mind. So, Casey, you want to come on up?
Good morning. I want to start out by thanking Nate and Steve for asking me to be here today. I've had the pleasure of knowing Ralph for over 25 years, practically my whole life, Ralph and Kristy. With that being said, I could tell you a lot of stories about Ralph and how he's helped me and Kristy as well, but I'm on a time limit, so I'll get right to it. The summer of my junior year, I had the opportunity to compete at the National's highest wrestling tournament, the Fargo National Tournament. At that time, I was currently training in the off-season with Ralph, competing in various tournaments around the country. Leading up to that training period, I wasn't doing things correctly in order to achieve what I wanted to achieve. So it was at that time Ralph came over to my house. He sat down with my parents and I, and he proposed me living with him. And for someone that was not doing the right things at the right time, the last thing you want to do is go live with somebody that's going to make him do the right things at the right time all the time. So of course my parents obliged, I obliged, and we did that. I went over to his house the next day, and I was greeted with Ralph and Kristy with their black agenda books and their calendar book, prepared with every single day for the remainder of the summer, every single thing that I was going to be eating for my diet to get back on track. Every single mile was calculated that I was going to run every single morning at 6 a.m. And every single practice was going to be structured every single day. So for that time, I wasn't ready for that type of structure in my life, and he knew that I needed that. There was occasions that I wanted to quit, say screw it, go back home and just live out the rest of the summer. But it was on a hot July day working out in McCullough Park while I was carrying 100-pound sandbags up and down a soapbox derby hill while being a know-it-all 17-year-old. I began to talk back, question every instruction given. So Ralph finally had enough. He calmly looked at me. He said, fine. He picked up his sandbag, he walked back to his truck, and he drove away. At the time, I had an exchange student from Brazil. His name was Felipe. He started tagging me on the shoulder, or he would tag along during the workouts. It was kind of nice to have him there, and I'll never forget his face. When he saw Ralph get into his old gray truck and drive away, he looked at me and he said, is he leaving? Where's he going? Wait, how are we getting home? So I knew for the second time that day I was going to be running 5 miles home. So no words were spoken until that evening. At the dinner table, Ralph looked up at me, and what he had to say is, I can't nor want to make you do this. You have to want to do this on your own. You have to make the decision for yourself. I want to share this with you to say that even when I'd given up on myself, Ralph and Kristy had never given up on me. He could have thrown me out of his house, told me to train on my own. Best of luck to you. But he didn't. He continued to help me. He helped me by loading me up in his vehicle, driving me around the country, competing in tournaments, enjoying different experiences, things that were just not wrestling related, but culture related as well. He helped me with talking to college coaches, helped me get recruited by colleges that were not even looking at me. He helped provide a better opportunity for me that maybe I wouldn't have if I wouldn't have ran into Ralph and Kristy. I want to say thank you for playing a vital role in my life, both of you two. You guys have been like second parents to me, and I know how much you do for the veterans around here, but I know there's more you do for a lot more people besides that. So I thank both of you for everything you guys have done. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Casey. So now I'd like to introduce Steve Stark. Steve Stark has been a part of our team for quite some time, but Steve actually came over with Ralph from Vincennes University, and honestly, it's become a big brotherhood up there. It's amazing what kind of job we do up there. We don't just file claims, guys. That's not what we. I mean, that's part of the business, right? But we take care of one another, and we try to help each other through hard times, through easy times, and so I was glad to have Steve come on when Ralph was coming on at the same time, and so Steve, if you'll come up and just say a few words as well.
I don't really know how I'm going to follow Casey, but I'm going to give it a shot. I first met Ralph Jigger Smith at the turn of the new millennium. I knew of his wrestling pedigree because I went to Southside as well, and the success that he had had as a wrestler. I also knew of the success he had had as a coach, and I also knew that he had ran for mayor in the 90s. And in 2002, I was coaching wrestling at Wapahani while Ralph was coaching at Southside. And I ran into Jigger and his wife at various wrestling events and freestyle tournaments, and I just couldn't figure them out. Everywhere they went, they were shaking everyone's hands and embracing total strangers in the wrestling community. And I'd never seen anything like this, and I just didn't understand it. About 15 years later, in 2015, I would realize why they did the things that they had done. And in 2015, my job that I had worked at for 17 years, which was Marsh Warehouse, closed its doors. And I remembered when I was coaching, Jigger had helped a veteran from Parker City, and I thought maybe he might be willing to help me. So me and my wife were expecting our first child, and I had no idea what the next chapter in my life was going to be. And you must understand, when I was coaching, me, Jigger, and Kristy did not exactly have a good working relationship. I was pretty arrogant. And as we would later learn at dinner with Ralph and Kristy, they did not think too highly of me. So here I was going to work one to ask a man that I knew probably did not like me for help. I walked into Jigger's office at work one, where he was the education specialist for Vincennes University's Upward Bound program. I told Jigger I was nothing but a dumb warehouser, and his response floored me. He stated, "I do not believe that. You're so much more than that, and where God closes one door, another door opens." He explained the vocational rehabilitation program that was available to veterans who qualified, and asked me if I was interested in going back to school. I was interested, but also afraid. I explained to Jigger that I was afraid of failure. Jigger said he believed in me and that I would not fail. So I enrolled at Ivy Tech, and within a year I had earned my associate degrees in general studies. During this time, I worked in his office as a work study and learned about helping other veterans. It was during our first meeting with his two bosses that, thanks to Jigger, I realized what the next chapter of my life was going to look like. Jigger moved his office into the Delaware County Veterans Affairs office, and I continued to work as a work study and enrolled at Ball State to study social work. Jigger taught me how to listen to other people and how to empathize with them and their situation, and in 2019 I earned a bachelor's degree in social work from Ball State. While working with Jigger and going to school, he always would make time to discuss how things were going in my personal life. From questions about marriage to raising my children, this man took the time out of his busy schedule to always listen and provide me with insight and wisdom. I learned from Jigger how to be a better person, friend, husband, and father. I look up to this man more than any other person I've ever known. Jigger took me under his wing, even though his initial opinion of me was not very flattering. I now understand why Jigger and Kristy had shook all those people's hands and given out all those hugs. It was because they genuinely cared about others and expressed this with open arms. I learned how to love and care for others more so than myself from Jigger and Kristy. I could stand up here and talk about Jigger and Kristy all day with a smile on my face. So in closing, I will share a quote from the Bible that sums up how I feel about these two and what they've taught me. It's Colossians 3, verses 12 through 14. Put on therefore as God's chosen ones, holy and beloved, a heart of compassion, kindness, lowliness, humility, and perseverance, bearing with one another and forgiving each other. If any man has a complaint against any, even as Christ forgave you, so you also do. Above all these things, walk in love, which is the bond of perfection. I love you, Ralph and Kristy, and I will always be indebted to the both of you.
So I'm gonna keep mine a little short and sweet. Well, I hope. And but you know, actually, all weekend long, I thought about what I was gonna say to both of you for all the help that you've given me, and I sincerely appreciate the lessons in life that you've taught me over the last few years. I can tell you that I didn't know Ralph until just probably 4 to 5 years ago. And my first instance of working with him, I had just started working in this office and was trying to develop an office that was a little bit more productive than in past years. And in that process, I got so busy that I had actually asked Ralph to interview my very first work study. Now, I'd done interviews previous to this for most of my adult life in my adult career. And he was able to help me select a good guy to be a part of our team. And lo and behold, we didn't know a year and a half, 2 years later that we would be joining each other and trying to help the veterans of Delaware County. And still to this day, all three of us are still working together. And so I just think it's kind of great that I was able to reach out to him and ask him for the help, because at the time I wasn't too sure of what I was getting myself into at the beginning. As time went on, you know, I obviously decided to get into some political settings, and took a lot of coaching from Ralph. And I can tell you, throughout this whole entire process, if there was anything that I learned from Ralph and Kristy, it was how to respond, not react. And if any of y'all know me, I tend to react a little bit and not respond all the time. And so I want to thank you for teaching me a life lesson on how to respond to folks, how to love, how to take care of one another, and what a true brotherhood and sisterhood is all about. And I just thank you from the bottom of my heart for what you've done for me and my family and getting us to where we are today. And so today I do want to present y'all with a certificate of appreciation. And commissioners, if you don't mind, I'd just like to step them up there and get a picture real quick. Is that okay? All right. Come on up here, guys. Oh. Got a phone?
Yeah, we'll stand up. Let's just stand up.
Is that good? You guys standing?
Sorry, I'm turning my phone back on. Just give me one, it's loading, I'm sorry. Technology again.
Good?
Yep.
All right. Yeah, brother. Love you, man.
Hey, no, it's good, like I'm getting ready to. Relax.
All right, let me get this in here.
And you have that bachelor's degree already, right?
Yes, sir. There we go. Thank you.
Mr. and Mrs. Smith's, they've been a great addition to the Veterans Office, and everything happens for a reason, they say, and we had, I'm thankful that we was able to bring Ralph, and with Ralph, we got Kristy too, so, I believe you started the women's veterans group, and that has been, that's been good for Delaware County as well. So I appreciate all the hard work that you both do for the people of the county, and it's been a pleasure to get to know both of you. So thank you very much.
I'd like to say, when I became a commissioner 6.5 years ago, Ralph, we started attending those resource quarterly meetings, and Ralph was thinking about moving out of town. I think it was the Bahamas or someplace you were thinking about.
He's still going.
Well, but we're so glad that you did decide to stay and serve us, and we really do thank you both so much. So thank you.
Well,
Thanks, Nick.
Ralph, I'm used to calling you Jigger. I've known Ralph probably, since the 90s when we started coaching wrestling at the Power Club. And for everybody to understand, he didn't have any kids. Well, yes, you did have kids there, but wasn't his biological kids. And anybody knows anything about wrestling, AU, folk style, anything like that, we get up, 5 o'clock in the morning, have the kids there by 6, sometimes 2 or 3 hour drive, so we'd have to even get up earlier than that. And probably wouldn't get home till about midnight, 1 o'clock. And we're talking about taking 20 or 30 kids and trying to control 20 or 30 kids. And I'm a South Side guy. I'm a rebel, and most of the kids come from our area, so they were a little rambunctious. But Ralph become like family to me and my wife and kids. When I went and started having to work and started doing 12-hour shifts, my boy was still in wrestling, and Ralph took him. Pick him up every morning, take him to all the tournaments, go to Ralph's house. But my boy also knew that if he caused you any problems, all you had to do is tell Dad. Because I did come over to some of Southside's practices and have to sit in a room with him sometimes, because he sort of had a temper and an attitude like his dad. But Ralph, I want to thank you for everything that you've done for the kids in this community. Everything that you have done for the veterans in this community. And I call you brother. Kristy, I call you my sister. I love you as both. So.
Well done.
Hey, so if I could just mention one last thing. So, obviously Ralph's going to be with us just a few more weeks. We will post out by the elevators having a retirement party for him. We would appreciate anybody and everybody that'd be willing to come. Honestly, we're losing a major asset in my opinion. So I would appreciate any and everybody just showing up and giving their thanks. Thank you.
We are truly humbled by this today. We serve our God. We both served our country for 20 years, and we love serving veterans and serving our community. We have servant hearts. And actually, James, the longest trip we took, and I know you'll remember it, is to Topeka, Kansas. When we coached the Indiana State team,
Yeah.
in the national finals, where a large majority of that Indiana State team were our Muncie and Delaware
Mhm.
County kids. And we're blessed actually to be able to coach, to be able to serve veterans. That's what we're all about. We host an open house at our house every Christmas Eve, because there are folks, believe it or not, that don't have a place to go on Christmas Eve. Last year, we had about 200 people at our house, off and on. I make some great chili and gumbo, and that's what we have. But we fellowship and have a good time, and we'll do that again this year. But we are truly blessed to be a part of the Delaware County Veterans Affairs family, and that's what we are. We are family. Thank you for allowing us to be a part of that.
Thank you so much.
I don't normally talk. Been with this man for 42 years. And he's always saying, stick with me, baby, I'll take you places you've never been. And my famous comment is, I don't want to go there. But he's always been right. Everything that we've done, it's always been a good thing. A little hard on us sometimes, but like the boys and the girls, we broke ground doing all that we did, and we haven't regretted one minute. Not one. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Well done. Well, it's gonna be a hard act to follow. Contracts and agreements for approval. Computer management and consultants. I don't think, I'd like to table this. John's not here, and
Make a motion, we table.
I'll second.
roll call, please.
Mr. King,
Yes.
Mr. Henry,
Yes.
Ms. Reagan,
Yes. Thank you. VOCA, federal grant.
Good morning, Commissioners. Emily Anderson, Court Administrator. Back in June, the VOCA grant was presented to you by actually our CASA director, and there were federal monies attached to this grant, so we're coming back to have you sign the paperwork that has to be signed for the auditor's process. So the VOCA grant was approved, we got the money, but now we're kind of backtracking, not realizing that the federal monies were there. So I just need your approval to sign the paperwork that were given to you through an email, I believe, just so we can submit that to the auditor, and the money's gonna be approved through council tomorrow.
Make a motion to approve.
I'll second it.
Roll call, please.
Mr. Henry,
Yes.
Mr. King,
Yes.
Ms. Reagan,
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Ordinance for the first reading, ordinance 2019-024, to amend the county comprehensive zoning ordinance.
And just an opening comment, Bart Moody, Executive Director, Plan Commission. As John usually mentions, the first reading for rezonings are at the Plan Commission meeting, so this is actually a second reading and in front of you for final action. This involves a 10-acre parcel at the northwest corner of State Road 3 and State Road 28, and it is currently a farm field. It's actually currently zoned mobile home residence, and the request is to change it to a BV variety business zone. And this was heard by the Plan Commission at their meeting earlier this month, and they returned a favorable recommendation by a vote of 6-1. And I know that there are people here representing the application, and there may be other people here that would like to speak, so.
Who would that be?
There's one back here shaking his head no.
No, you're okay? Okay. So we can go ahead and act on this, so that change the numbers? or-
No, the numbers are the same. I'll make a motion, we approve ordinance 2019-024.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Mr. King,
Yes.
Mr. Henry,
Yes.
Ms. Reagan,
Yes. Okay, very good. Okay, the ordinance 2019-025, emergency medical billing. First reading.
So in our, I'll talk about this a little bit. I've been working with Jason and our attorneys with this. There was a ordinance that existed, that was a schedule fee ordinance for intercepts. It really did not, nowhere in that ordinance did it have in there that would apply to the situation we're in now with the city of Muncie. So this ordinance changes the old billing rate and ordinance that was in place. And I know EMS has taken some calls where they have intercepted Muncie Fire EMS, and so that's why this has all been changed, correct, Joe?
That is correct. There's just some other general updates as well, some outdated stuff that didn't be in there anymore.
But we need to, yeah, we need to suspend the rules on this because, like I said, we have had some intercepts and it may be an issue to bill for those.
I'll make a motion to introduce ordinance 2019-025.
I'll second.
Roll call, please.
Mr. Henry,
Yes.
Mr. King,
Yes.
Ms. Reagan,
Yes.
Make a motion to suspend the rules.
I'll second.
Roll call, please.
Mr. King,
Yes.
Mr. Henry,
Yes.
Ms. Reagan,
Yes.
I'll make a motion to adopt ordinance 2019-025.
I'll second.
Roll call, please.
Mr. Henry,
Yes.
Mr. King,
Yes.
Ms. Reagan,
Yes. Thank you very much. Resolution for approval, resolution 2019-36, please.
Sure, this is just a resolution that starts a process. The commissioners can enter into a joint project with local municipality with the redevelopment commission. Statute allows the county to basically earmark TIF dollars for a joint project that would normally go through the county redevelopment commission, but in this case, the statute requires this body to approve that type of action. So this is just a first step to initiate the process. We're still working with Yorktown to get the details of the joint project hammered out, but this is just kind of setting the groundwork, setting the parameters for what we're looking to get into. So I would suggest adopting this one so we can get that ball rolling.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Second.
Roll call.
Mr. Henry,
Yes.
Mr. King,
Yes.
Ms. Reagan,
Yes. Thank you. Resolution 2019-37.
This is just a resolution to adopt or agree to an interlocal agreement with the town of Gaston for street sweeping services. I'm assuming Angie or someone knows more about this particular deal, or maybe Bob, but it's pretty straightforward. The county's gonna do street sweeping, or provide street sweeping services to Gaston twice a year in exchange for Gaston buying brushes for the street sweeper.
I'll make a motion to approve.
I'll second it.
Roll call, please.
Mr. King,
Yes.
Mr. Henry,
Yes.
Ms. Reagan,
Yes. Thank you. Department heads. We received a letter from the city, and Mr. Brook suggested we put it on.
This, you guys all received a copy of the letter.
Yes.
Yes.
You read what it said. The question is just what, if any, response you'd like for our office, if you want our office to handle a response, or if you want to handle the response obviously in-house, but just what response you'd like us to provide, if any response is necessary at all.
Well, there's a few things that I would like for our attorneys to check into. And I've had some phone calls over the weekend about Delaware County EMS and fire-based EMS and Heartland and all that. Portion of Center Township, that's within the boundaries of the county, not in the city. Does the city actually have a right to go into the county and do EMS when the county has an operation that does it outside the city limits? Can the mayor actually say, we're gonna have fire-based EMS within the city limits, but now we're also gonna go outside the city limits?
So technically, by statute, the city does have to have authorization from the unit they're providing the services to. In this case, the county, because the county operates EMS services already. It would technically need authority from this body to provide those services. So unless that authority has already been given, your answer is no.
Another question is, has the Muncie City Council, have they rescinded I believe it's, and Mr. Flockenbush is here, and I think he knows something about the 1977 agreement with Delaware County EMS to provide EMS services?
As far as I know, they have not.
Could that be a violation to the city? And also, since now they have Heartland, since that actually states that Delaware County is to provide EMS service within the city limits, would they have to rescind that, or?
Yeah, as it stands, that resolution is still in force, so they would need to do something to either amend the resolution or rescind the resolution, basically to say that Delaware County would not be the exclusive provider within the city limits. But that's a city council issue, obviously.
Come up, Ron.
My name's Ron Quakenbush out at 518 South Bridgewater, and I actually was a county commissioner when the ambulance service got its feet. It was 2 years old when I came in office in 1981. We experienced a similar situation, and I don't remember exactly what year it was, but it was probably in 85 or 86 when MedTech was in town and tried to get on to our business, into our business. And we went to court. It was in Judge Daly's court too. And we prevailed as a county based on Judge Daly's ruling. So I would suggest that you maybe research that and find that court case, because the way I understand law, that all prevails in this county only. It doesn't affect any other counties or such, but it's something that stood up for Delaware County, and I want to thank the commissioners as a council member for all the work you're doing to preserve this service. This service started in its infancy under James Carey, the sheriff at the time, with an ambulance and his chief deputy in 1978, and it's come a long way through a lot of different boards of commissioners to be what it is today. And from what I've been told, one of our own members, our own paramedics, was honored at a state honor for his service and accomplishments. And we've lost some good people because of what's happened, and the county council chose to create a new way to show our appreciation for the paramedics and to compete with these other communities that are actually, in blunt words, stealing our best employees and best paramedics. And so with the cooperation of the commissioners and all the work, I know Shannon, I talked to him the other day, he was beside himself, he didn't know where he was going, and I was just trying to find out information, he wasn't sure, but, he's working on it, and I know James is near and dear to it. Sherry, at our age, we need it around, right?
Right.
Thank you very much.
So can we look at that court,
Absolutely.
court case
Yeah.
up? And then we also need to, file the appropriate, response in reference to them running in Center Township out of the city limits. Cause that is an issue.
I think that's a done deal. I don't think they have a right to come outside the city limits.
No, I don't either. Even though it's in Center Township, it's still not within the city, and
So do we wanna send a reply to this letter? If we send a reply, my only reply would be that we're covering the red section like we had verbally agreed to, and any other time you call, we'll be there. Jenny, could you put something like that on our letterhead and have it sent over today? So we keep getting these timelines. This timeline is, by the end of business day today, so.
We're still doing research also, so
yeah, 'cause
might include that.
Yeah, you just might include that we're still looking into the legalities.
Learn something every day.
Everything.
Yeah, 'cause one of my things also with the city, I mean, if they go, just say they go out to the county or they send Heartland outside the city limits and somebody's not happy with the services, or if they do something that they shouldn't have done, me personally, if it was me, I would sue.
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, I would sue the city of Muncie, I would sue Heartland, because they have no right to be there. Just the way I look at the law. I did watch a video of Eddie Bell and Ms. Clark. And I do wanna say, I mean, we got some great firemen in the city of Muncie. I ain't got a problem with firemen. I think they do a great job and they're doing what, they've been told to do. I don't have a problem with that. What I have a problem with is this being done the right way? There's what my problem is, because, that would be like us as the commissioners of the county, and the city of Muncie sits inside the county, that we say, well, we're gonna continue to work inside the city limits and.
Start a fire department.
Right.
Start a fire department in the city, yeah.
Because the city sits in the county. We oversee the county. It's just the way I look at it. But I think we need to look into that. Joe, I think we also need to sort of look, can we dispatch private services?
I don't see why not, but I do know that there are some issues that may come up with that type of deal that would need to be discussed, obviously, internally. I don't know enough about 911 dispatch. It's something you want to talk to probably 911 people about. But yeah, I do know there are some problems that are kind of inherent with that type of service.
And another thing I would check into, and is just the way stuff is done over at the city level, I'd probably even look in and see who's, any other family members oversee Heartland, if they work at Heartland, and see if that's the reason why they went with Heartland, because they did a contract with either somebody that their family with, who knows? But, like I said, I don't have a problem with the Muncie firefighters. They showed up when, my mother was low on sugar and ended up and had a diabetic seizure. They were great, they were fine. Delaware County EMS showed up there, but Delaware County EMS, they had the stuff to bring her out of the seizure and bring her out. And with her living on the southeast side of Muncie and her health, that concerns me that you know, we're gonna have the snatch and grab that's gonna show up and they're gonna head down, and the mayor and everybody's already been complaining about the ambulance on Tillotson. Say they're on the way, and that's the way they take to the hospital, and all of a sudden there's a train there, and, you know, they can't give her the medications that she needs. My wife is steroid dependent, so if she's in an accident, southeast side or southwest side of Muncie, and something happens to her, and she can't get the drugs because, once again, I think they call it a snatch and grab or whatever is what they call them. You know, once again, I'll find the best attorney I can find and I'll sue because she didn't have the care that she should have. But I would like to have all that stuff checked into. And like I said, if something like that happened to me and they showed up and wasn't able to give me the services and they shouldn't have been there, like I said, I get the best attorney and I'd sue them. Yep. All right with you? Are you good?
I'm good with that too.
I'm fine.
I apologize, but this is near and dear to my heart. I talked to Shannon's wife a little bit the other evening, expressed my opinion and my feelings. I'm going to encourage the commissioners to take every legal action possible to stop this. This is unfair to the citizens of this community. Muncie and Delaware County have appreciated in so many ways what our public safety services are. And there was a lot of thought, and we traveled to Illinois, we traveled to Ohio, we built the communication system with the cooperation of the mayor of Muncie and the fire chief and the police chief at that time. In fact, the police officer drove us around to these different places to look at all these systems. The agreements were made, they're interlocal agreements. I'm sure they have their problems. I know one of the problems in one of the interlocal agreements is the way the employees of communications would be paid. It was originally in the original agreement that half the employees would be paid by the county and half by the city. They were gonna be city employees. At the last minute, a verbal agreement was made. I wasn't in office at the time, but I knew about it when it happened because someone came and told me. But the interlocal agreement was not amended at that time. And that's what caused all the controversy when the former mayor tried to back out of this. This is not about us as elected officials. This is about the entire community. This is about what James just said. I had an incident one time about 10 years ago when I had a fibrillation thing go on with my heart, and I had no idea what was wrong. So what did I do? I drive to the ambulance service, you know? Well, they threw me in an ambulance and hauled me to town. Well, by the time we got to Warner Gear, they were firing up the sirens and talking to the doctor, and I was impressed. It was just a quirky little thing, but nonetheless, I went to the hospital and they observed me. And so I've experienced this service. And it's just not fair to our community and our people in this community to have this controversy. I hope the people at the city administration understand what they're doing. If they want to put firemen on as first responders, I'm like you, James. The firemen do their job. I doubt if there are very many firemen over there that really want to be paramedics and do the kind of work that paramedics do. And I had to be convinced back when to agree to put paramedics on the street. I've told this story many times, but I couldn't get the county council to fund it. So I put my best suit and tie on one day and came to county council meeting and told them, just like I'm standing here, if you folks want me to, I'll get down on my hands and knees and beg you for this money. They gave us the money that day to put the equipment in the hospital to do the contacts with the ambulances. Hospital wasn't gonna pay for it. I met with the directors at the hospital. They weren't gonna pay for it. They were doing us a favor, in a sense, to let us communicate. This is a little bit of the history that what means so much to this community. And all I can do is encourage you folks as commissioners to have your attorney just do whatever they can to stop this. And let us get back to business the way it should be. Thank you.
Thanks, Ron.
Thank you,
Well,
Ron.
with the interlocal agreement before, you know, Jason worked really hard, on the weekend to try to get, interlocal, agreement with the city officials, and we know that because we was part of the email and phone call chain that weekend. It was gonna start on Monday morning, and they gave us that date, so we was kinda under the gun to try to get a interlocal agreement established. But then during the time that we were going back and forth with city officials, it seems like towards the end, they were trying to play games like usual, and this isn't something I take lightly. I've said it before, I've done this all my life, and I worry about all the citizens of Delaware County, and that includes the city of Muncie. But I worry about all the citizens in Delaware County, and I'm not gonna play games with an interlocal. That's why I think just send a letter saying we'll cover the red area like we have been, and call us if you need us for anything else. We had, I think we had 9 trucks working Saturday. 9 trucks and like 3 squads. So Delaware County EMS can put some things together. So.
Just checking on all that for us, Joe. We appreciate it.
Will do.
Okay, thank you very much. Monthly reports, weights and measures, payments of claim, $1,951,990.01.
Make a motion to pay the claims.
I'll second.
Roll call, please.
Mr. King,
Yes.
Mr. Henry,
Yes.
Ms. Reagan.
Yes. Questions for public to speak? Any issue they might be having? Seeing none,
Make a motion to recess.
I'll second.
roll call, please.
Mr. Henry,
Yes.
Mr. King,
Yes.